Arknight's Endfield has the most complex combat system in any gacha game I have ever played, which is why in today's video, I'm going to be going over Zhuang Fangyi and how to play her in her best teams and with her best builds. My name is Braxophone, you can call me Brax, and Zhuang Fangyi can call me anytime. That was so dumb. All right, so listen up, guys. Because Arknight's Endfield is so complex, it takes a really long time to figure out the best way to play these characters if you want to know every single facet about how they play, including the timings of their skills relative to the basic attacks of your friendly allies. There are a lot of things to know if you're going to play this game optimally, and that includes enemy movements as well, which is why I think rather than adopting a very specific and curated rotation, it's better if I just show you how to play the character in general and let you kind of wing it when you get into the content. With that said, I will be changing the format of these guides going forward, but hopefully I'm able to provide the information in a way that makes the most sense to you guys and is wholly practical without you having to follow an incredibly strict rotation. Anyways, let's get into her. This is Zhuang Fangyi, and she is an electric-based character that deals a ridiculous amount of AoE damage with the help of both her teammates and her own personal scalings. She's the first character in the entire game to have her own damage amplify attached to herself, and even though she is very similar to Levitate in her role, she feels quite a bit easier to play in my opinion. So let's go over what she does. Zhuang Fangyi plays off of Sunderblades, and if you don't know what Sunderblades are, they're essentially these swords that she drives into the ground that increase the damage that she does and energy that she gains whenever she uses her skill. The way she gets Thunderblades is by consuming electrification. Now, when this is done, you create the level of electrification consumed plus 1 worth of Thunderblades. If there's fewer than 3, you can make them automatically, even if it doesn't consume any electrification at all. So for example, hit that guy, now I have a Thunderblade and it is right over here. He's just chilling. Basically, this skill will do a successive amount of lightning strikes based on the amount of Thunderblades that are out, and they go up to 9. Once you land the 9th one, it does 6 times the damage, basically resulting in 15 hits worth of damage. Now, the interesting thing is that for every Thunderblade you have when you use her skill, you actually gain 6 more energy. So the skill by default will give 6.5 energy, and then you gain an extra 6 per Thunderstrike, meaning that once you have 9, you're actually getting 60.5 energy per skill. Now, this is important because the cost of her ultimate is very high at 240 energy. And as mentioned before, when you don't have any Thunderblades out, you're just getting the 6.5 energy. So basically what this means is that Zhuang Fangyi at the start of a battle is actually quite slow, but as you progress through the battle, she actually gets faster and ramps up. And the cool thing is that after you overcap on Thunderblades, it starts resetting the cooldowns of them, meaning that once you have 9, you can basically keep 9 the rest of the fight so long as you play around the electrification mechanic and keep refreshing more of them. This will eventually lead to her getting ultimates very quickly as opposed to how long it takes her to get one at a standard pace at the beginning of a fight. Now, one thing to note is that this is basically not important at all if you're just doing farming content. So her build when you're farming is going to be different from her build when you're doing endgame content. An overwhelming majority of her damage is her skill, and over 60% of the damage she does is from her skill, and her ultimate is just going to enhance that. Her ultimate also allows her skill to apply electric infliction to the target that's hit. It makes it so that her combo skill gets a higher multiplier and becomes 4 times faster, and the effect becomes AoE. And lastly, her ultimate will change her basic attack multiplier and make it so that her first cast of her skill doesn't cost SP or electrification and is guaranteed to create 3 Thunderblades even without electrification. Now, her combo skill is actually really important, so let's go back to that. The combo gets triggered whenever you do a final strike on an enemy that has electric infliction. Now, there's a lot of characters that can do that in this game, and they are very good with Zhuang Fangyi. Additionally, her combo skill does have a 17-second cooldown. However, that won't be an issue as we do have our combo skill aligning pretty dang well with Perlica's. If an enemy gets hit by her combo skill and they have electric infliction, then it consumes electric infliction and forcibly applies electrification. It'll also give ultimate energy based on the number of stacks of electrification consumed. And if the enemy already has electrification, you can forcibly apply a higher tier of electrification to them by upping the status level of that electrification. So essentially, the TLDR of this character is that you want to apply electrification and consume it with her to create Thunderblades. Using those Thunderblades, you will get energy towards her ultimate, and when you use her ultimate, you will get free Thunderblades in addition to tons of damage. Her skill will be enhanced with a bigger AoE and more damage, and her basic attack sequence will also be enhanced. She feels like a pretty solid version of a hyper carry character, essentially battery her to get her to her ultimate, and then once she has her ultimate, she should basically shred everything on her own. She also has a couple passives that I want to quickly go over, including the Force of Nature passive, which is going to make it so that casting her skill will give her an electric amp and will increase that electric amp every single time she casts a Thunder Strike and hits an enemy. Now remember, the amount of Thunder Strikes you do depends on the amount of Thunderblades that you have, and this means that the damage amp can get very, very high, up to a max of 30 36%. On top of that, she has a base 9% chance of gaining immunity against damage taken, with each Sunderblade nearby increasing that amount by 1%, so up to an 18% chance of getting immunity to damage taken. Additionally, after triggering the immunity, she gets a bunch of HP back, and that can only trigger once every 99 seconds. So you likely will still need to bring a healer. However, you can mitigate a lot of the damage that she takes. So with that said, let me go show you how she plays. There are multiple ways to apply electrification on this team. If you look here and I use her skill right away, nothing happens because there is no electrification. However, we are guaranteed the 1 Sunderblade because we have less than 3. So for example, we could cast this 2 more times and we would have 3 Sunderblades right off the bat, but this is not the most efficient way to play it, and it's not going to net you the most damage, especially because we're just not hitting electrification at all. What I'd recommend instead is taking a character like Perlica, using their skill to apply electric infliction, then using their combo skill to apply that level 2 electrification, and then absorbing it to get some Sunderblades. You can do that same thing again to apply more Sunderblades. It'll take a moment for her cooldown to reset. However, we do have some things in the game that allow us to increase cooldown speed. Here we go. We're gonna get some more Sunderblades. We now have 6. We need about 1 more basic attack sequence to get more Sunderblades. Do both combos. We have 9 Sunderblades. And now we can use our enhanced skill, and it just absolutely demolishes Rodon. Although, hold on, let me go ahead and head out of here. There we go. So I'm gonna hit him with Perlica for electrification. I'll wait till this goes off. Now I'm gonna use her skill. And as you can see, it does a ridiculous amount of damage. Now, one issue that you will have seen just right there, and I'll replay it in the video right now, is that if you dodge during her skill, it will cancel the skill, and you will lose your chain of lightning. When this happens, you lose a significant amount of damage, which is why that immunity effect even exists, so that way you can tank some hits while you're in that form. So very quickly, I will show you again. So Perlica can apply electric infliction. So you want to trigger Zhuang Fangyi and Perlica's skills right next to each other. So there is 1 electric infliction stack here. And the cool thing is, if you use both the combos in quick succession, you can actually apply level 2 electrification because Perlica also forces her own. So there we go. Now we actually have 2 levels of electrification, and we can use her enhanced skill to get 3 Sunderblades right off the bat. Now the timing of this is actually important. So I'm gonna apply electrification. You want to make sure that Perlica's electrification applies to him before Zhuang Fangyi's does, so you can get the 2nd level. If not, Zhuang Fangyi will consume the electrification, and then another stack of electrification will appear on him, and you will need to use another skill to clean it up. So timing does matter here. So there we go. We got the 2nd level. There it is. We can absorb. We have a bunch of blades. I'm just gonna go ahead and do one of these, so I can show you her basic attack sequence as it's enhanced. Never mind, he goes into sicko mode. They really gotta give us a better test dummy in this game, man. We get our first skill for free, does a ridiculous amount of damage. We also get our enhanced like claw attacks, which are just so sick. We can also just throw some arc light in there. We can throw some Perlica ult in there. And now we can use her skill. Holy cow, that is just ridiculous. And I'm not even trying to do like a damage showcase. I'm not doing any like crazy setups with the food or anything. That's just what she does. She's just nuts. And keep in mind, guys, this is AoE damage. So if you're playing Gilberta and there's like 5 enemies in there, they're all taking that damage and it goes crazy. She becomes even stronger in content where there's multiple enemies because you can apply that electrification to multiple of them at a time, which can lead to significantly faster swords. Now, I will go over her build in just a second, but first I want to talk about her best teams for applying electric inflictions and trying to get her ultimate out as quick as possible. There are a few different characters that can apply electric infliction, and to be honest, all of them kind of work with her. She's a very flexible unit, but overall, my favorite team to play with her is Zhuang Fangyi, Perlica, Arclight, and Ardelia, which seems to net some of the highest damage with some of the easiest play. Now, the reason for this is because you're actually able to run multiple different buffers alongside her that will significantly increase her damage. In particular, this works really well with Perlica, who's able to use a weapon like Wild Wanderer to make it so that when the wielder applies electrification, which is her, the team gains physical damage and electric damage dealt, and it's a massive increase. The other benefit of this is that it is a 5-star weapon, meaning that you can get it maxed out even as a free-to-play player should you spend the time. That all combined with the fact that she can force electrification with her combo skill, and her combo being on a lower cooldown thanks to this combo skill reduction set, Perlica is kind of one of the better characters you could put on one of these teams. Personally, I like to run her on Qingbo Light Armor, Pulsar Lab Gloves, gloves, and 2 Chingbo casks, because this new set allows her to have the stats that she wants with some arts intensity, in addition to the cooldown reduction and skill damage dealt, and Perlica's skill hits hard. Now, Arclight is another staple in this team, specifically because she's able to apply electric infliction with her ultimate, or even forcibly apply electrification. This pairs particularly well because it allows you to get more Thunderblades up more quickly on Zhuang Fangyi, and Arclight's combo skill procs very frequently, meaning that you are able to dish out a fair bit of damage on her. The only thing is that you don't want to actively hit her skill because it will consume the electrification that enemies have. It does give you a little bit of freedom to recover some SP, but you also spend 100 SP to use this, so I don't really recommend it. However, because her combo skill can recover SP, you can use Thermite Cutter on her to grant an attack buff to your entire team. And should you have this essence fully leveled, which by the way, none of these essences are fully leveled at all. This one I got the suppression ability, but literally none of these are. Should you invest into this, you can get a huge attack buff for your team. This also allows you to get a huge electro buff to your team. Yeah, definitely max your essences, guys. But all of this combined with her set, the Frontier set, you're going to be able to reduce her combo skill cooldown, which honestly, this doesn't really matter much because her cooldown is already so short. But mostly when she requires SP, the entire team's going to get a damage bonus, which is very significant. Now, the new Frontier pieces have helped us a lot here. The Frontier's protection suit, Frontier's fiber gloves, Frontier's extra O2 tube T1, and for a little bit of extra combo skill damage, we're running the Type 50 Yingling Radar T2. That way, between these two characters, you actually get big damage buffs. Lastly, I'm running Ardelia, but I'll go over some other team options as well. Ardelia will be ran as a healer and can run the Zhirnite set to give your team even more damage dealt. So overall, this team has a lot of coverage. It plays very, very fast, as electric teams should, and it's really fun. However, in place of Ardelia, you can also run Gilberta, who can also run the Zhirnite set the exact same way that Ardelia can, except when you play Gilberta, there are some other benefits as well. Gilberta will allow you to group up all of the enemies, so that way Zhuang Fangyi's AoEs will hit all of them and dish out massive damage and dispatch them very quickly. In addition to that, she can apply Nature Infliction, which is going to allow you to A, build electrification off of her, or B, build corrosion off of the electric infliction that your teammates are going to be applying. Her ult also applies a massive art susceptibility, and with the Zhirnite set that she is not equipped with right now, she's going to be massively helpful for your team's damage output. I also want to give some honorable mentions to Antal, Akikuri, and Aviwena. Now, Antal is a character that can apply electric susceptibility and heat susceptibility to enemies, and in addition to that, he can apply an electric amp and heat amp to the entire team. This is going to be massively helpful for your damage. However, one thing to keep in mind is that you do have one source of amp built into this character already, and it can be better to replace him with other choices. Akikuri is good in basically every team, and since we do have new Frontier set pieces that can match more of her stats and give energy recovery, Akikuri does feel significantly more versatile and stronger, and she can also use Thermite Cutter as well. And lastly, Aviwena is able to apply her own electric infliction with her skill, so that's kind of nice, but in addition to that, she can also proc her combo skill off of enemies having been inflicted with electric or having electrification on them. So her combo's going to proc pretty frequently, and she is a very strong DPS character that can function very well in this team. And just as a heads up here, if you are going to play Aviwena, you should definitely make sure that Perlica is in the 4th slot of your team, because if she is not in the 4th slot, you can actually mess up the combo skill synergy between Perlica and Zhuang Fangyi due to the timing of the Aviwena combo. So as long as Perlica is last in the team, the timing should work out fine, but if she's not, you're going to notice some weirdness where you actually have to wait for Aviwena's combo. Lastly, I want to talk about Zhuang Fangyi's build, and her options are very straightforward and simple. If you're playing her with Ardelia, then this is the setup you want to run because you want the ult gain efficiency from Bone Crusher Poncho, assuming you're playing in an optimal setup. So I run Bone Crusher Poncho T1, Sheer and Flow gloves, Sheer and Flow baton, and another Sheer and Flow baton. However, if you're playing with Gilberta, because the energy will be different due to you having different inflictions, you actually want to run the Sheer and Flow light armor, which is going to give you a crowd electric damage dealt bonus, and you're going to replace one of the batons with an auxiliary arm, which should have very high ult gain efficiency. Either way, you are going to be running 3 pieces of the Sheer and Flow set, which is going to allow you to consume electrification to gain a huge electric damage dealt buff. Lastly, if you're just using her for farming and you're not really bringing her into endgame modes where you're going to have no energy at the start, you can run Link Slab, which will be the highest overall damage if you are planning to clear content very quickly. This applies to things like boss speedruns, where you're just trying to get through one cycle of their HP, and it's going to be doable in one cycle. That main attribute bonus is absolutely crazy. Since there were 3 combos mentioned though, I'll put all of them up on screen right now for you guys. Now, lastly, let's talk about weapons. First off, we have Lone Barge, which is her signature weapon. This is obviously going to be the best one, and it provides a massive electric damage dealt bonus, an attack bonus, and battle skill electric damage dealt, which is a lot to say. I think I've re-recorded me saying that line like 6 different times. And it gets significantly higher with her ultimate at 64% at 1 copy with the maxed out essence. However, there are quite a few other options, including Flickers in the Mist, which is going to make it so that when Zhuang Fangyi gets electric amp from herself, she'll also get electric damage dealt bonus. And the secondary stat is also electric damage dealt. This thing at max is really good on her, and so is Oblivion. Now, Oblivion's a little bit weird because it does give a 5% crit rate, but the arts damage dealt increase is massive for her. You also have Delivery Guaranteed, which is going to give ult gain efficiency and allow you to swap off the energy piece that you might be running for something that does a little bit more damage, like the Link Slab. There's also Monahe, which is going to give you some more ult gain efficiency as well, arts intensity and main attribute bonus. And if you get this one to max copies, you can also swap off the ult gain efficiency piece in favor of a Link Slab to dish out some more damage. Here are the rest of the options, or I guess just everything listed out. Even though it appears that damage change is significant with a signature weapon, overall other weapons can still net a ridiculous amount of damage. And lastly, guys, I want to go over the copies of Zhuang Fangyi, and I think this is actually really important because this hasn't really been a thing prior. The potentials on Zhuang Fangyi are actually insanely versatile and insanely good, at least compared to other Arknight's Endfield characters. Usually you don't see more than a 30% damage increase, and this time we can see almost up to a 50% one, so check this out. First off, her potential one is going to increase her battle skill to have its multiplier be 15% better, and her first battle skill will create 1 more Sunderblade no matter what at the start of a battle. This helps her get her ult out faster and instantly helps her do way more damage. Her second potential is going to give her will, but it's also going to increase her battle skill damage dealt some more, and this is significant because her battle skill is already such a big part of her kit. Her skill gets improved even further in P3, and after consuming electrification, she does get 10 SP back, which means over 1 rotation, she'll basically get 1 more free skill, and Sunderblades will last 10 more seconds, meaning that you are basically never going to have to deal with them falling off. P4 is also massive. It makes it so that your ultimate costs 15% less energy, which is going to mean that you can actually ramp up even faster. And P5 is absolutely crazy, which makes it so that during her ultimate, she deals significantly more damage because it ignores 15 electric resistance on enemies. So all of these can actually add up a fair bit of damage. I'll show you guys this chart on screen now, and you guys can make your own judgment if you want to pull for copies. Personally, I think 1 copy of a character is good enough, but I don't know, once you see those arts, it's kind of all over for you. Anyways, I hope you guys found this video helpful. I am planning on scripting out my guides in the future, but the way things are right now, I just really need to think of a good format that I feel like I can deliver the information to you guys in the best way possible. If you guys enjoyed, feel free to subscribe to the channel for more Endfield content, and I'll catch you guys next time.